Hey Flosstube! This is X Stitching and Adventures, and my name is Amy, and I am so happy to be back with you today. It's been about a month since my last update, and I have been stitching a lot. Most of what you're going to see today is new starts. I feel like the summertime is always kind of like conducive to that, right? I have more free time, I can kit more things, and I have all these like wonderful patterns from Market and that I've been collecting over the year that I just now have the freedom to work on. So I started a lot of new things. I've worked on a couple of my whips, and you will be so proud of me. I have hardly any haul to share. I have been very, very tight with my budget lately. So I've just bought a couple of little things that I'll share with you. And then I have a few plans for stitching over the next month that I'll share with you too. I have been on a few different adventures, and I'll share some of the highlights of those and maybe some pictures towards the end of this video. But I'm happy to be back with you. I'm sorry it's been a while. I know I always say that, but it's true. I'm glad to be back. I've been enjoying watching several of your whip parades. I am tragically behind on a lot of my Flosstube, but I enjoyed watching Julie's whip parade, Kansas City Girl in a Colorado World. I started Cam's the other day, and I watched a few of the recent updates from Jordan and Berna, so Bernadette, Lindy Stitches. And so I will, maybe I'll mention some of the Flosstubers that I've been watching in the description box, but you should definitely go check those out. There's been some really fantastic whip parades lately. I'm not going to do a whip parade because I just feel like I haven't had enough progress on some of my whips, my older whips that I showed you in my very first video. There's definitely been some, sorry, the camera's shaking a little bit from a cat jumping off the table. There's definitely been some progress towards those whips, but there's been a lot of new starts and a lot of finishes, and I feel like I've shown all of that fairly recently. So I'm not planning to do a whip parade this summer, but I will do one at the beginning of next year when everyone else does whip parades as well. So all that being said, let me show you some of my new starts. The first new start that I'll show you is this one. So I've mentioned that I was going to start Wizard Cat by Lindy Stitches because Bernadette was able to get me all of the Cosmo floss when she went to Japan. So I started Wizard Cat, and I had intended to start this as part of my plans for this year, but I've also been fighting the summertime sads. There's a lot of reasons for that. I think it's hard for me working in the school system, going from like a 90 miles per hour year, day, week schedule to not having to go so fast and be so routine all the time, that June was kind of like a recovery month for me, where I had to kind of figure out my summertime routine, make sure that I was still like taking care of myself, like figuring out budgets for the rest of the summer where I don't make as much money, and then just also kind of dealing with some other like personal family friend sort of issues. And so I just have been dealing with the summertime sads. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think probably several of us have. And this is not like a cry for help. It just was like one of those things where I was like, I need this message more for myself right now than later. So I started Wizard Cat. This is based on artwork from Hannah. Ooh, let me find the name. Darn it, it's not on that one, it's on a different. Hannah Detterbeck, Detterbeck, and she can be found on Instagram. I think her pronouns are she, maybe it's she, they, I can't remember, but anyway, she did a sketch of this that I think Lindy Stitches then licensed to put into a cross stitch pattern. And a lot of her artwork is just awesome and very relatable. I highly encourage you to go follow that artist, as well as Lindy Stitches, Stephanie as well. I decided to start this one on a Lugana that I've had in my stash for a long time. This was a fabric that when it arrived years ago, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to stitch on that. And when I was kitting things up, I kind of pulled it out and thought, maybe this one. And it really is working. I'm loving this fabric. So I'm stitching this on Cherrific by Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. This is a 32 count Lugana. And I chose a 32 count because this is a full coverage design and it really needs 2 strands. So this is 2 strands of Cosmo floss, floss as called for on Cherrific Lugana. And I made a pretty dang good start on this. I really have been enjoying stitching on this pattern, but as you can see, it is really just dense stitching. It's going to be perfect for some retreat stitching because there are lots of areas that I can just, highlight and then fill in. All of this around this cat is going to be this blue color, so that's going to be a lot of mind-numbing, like mindless stitching. And then in this border, it will connect up here and repeat on the other side. And there will be some back stitching, but it's going to be a pretty chill pattern to stitch, with the exception of being like a lot of stitching. And then down here it says, "Your sadness will pass, my friend," which is definitely what I needed to hear. This is a pin from Jed Henry. You can follow them on Instagram. They do a lot of artwork and pin designs for Comic-Con, and this was one that I bought actually years ago and turned into a needle minder. And then when this design came out, I was like, it's fate, like this has got to be my minder for this design. So Wizard Cat minder, Wizard Cat design, loving this one. I don't have any specific plans to come back to this anytime soon, with the exception of maybe bringing it to the retreat that I'm going to at the end of the month called Stitching on the River over in Boise. I think it'll be really easy to just do some fill in there. So that one may get a few more stitches before the next update. We'll see. I'm gonna put that behind me. I had another new start for Stitching on the River, and this one is a Dirty Annie's design. I've talked about it before, but I finally got to start Venetian Lion, and this is just such a gorgeous pattern. I am stitching it with the called for flosses, but on a different fabric. It's called for on a Nutmeg fabric, but I think the Nutmeg fabric is from Atomic Ranch, and I have a Nutmeg fabric from Color and Cotton. So that's what I'm stitching mine on. It is a little lighter, I think, than the one from Atomic Ranch. And so, oh, here, let me see if I can put this behind. That way it's not got a loose thread. So some of my colors are not super popping on there, but others are just really, really looking good. So I am stitching this on a 36 count, Color and Cotton. And on the model, it was stitched on a 32 count, and hindsight is 20/20. But if I were to stitch this again, I would probably go to a 32 count because the silk lame braid is pretty dang thick. And the coverage when I stitch in the silk is much better than when I stitch one strand of DMC on this 36 count. So I feel like some elements of the design are really, really popping, and then others are a little bit more muted. It doesn't look bad. I'm still loving it. I'm not going to restart it. But just a heads up to some of you that might want to stitch this. I'm going to bring this in a lot closer. I am just loving this design. You can really see how great Annie did at designing those roses. My goodness, they are so beautiful. So in this gold section, like these gold sections, there are 3 different colors. One of them is the silk lame, and then 2 of them are DMC. And you can kind of see that some of this DMC is almost the same color as my fabric. And I, in hindsight, should have probably changed that a little bit. But I really loved how it was kind of coordinating. Like yes, it kind of blends in, but it also kind of pulls the fabric in as like a part of the design instead of just, what it's stitched on. If that makes any sense at all. This is a silk lame braid. There is also going to be some red silk lame braid in it, but I haven't got to that yet. I'm just so loving this right now. This will probably come back out again soon. It's been really fun to stitch, and it stitches up a little faster than I thought it was going to. So there's that one. Here's some of those DMC colors. Let's see here. I think this is the color that isn't super popping on there. It looks a little lighter in this video than it is, but really pretty colors. These floss tags are from, oh gosh, why am I blanking on it? Adam Hart. They were like the less than perfect ones that they sell for discount, and I can't see anything wrong with them. They work great. I did have to, I think last time I mentioned that I had bought a gold silk lame braid that I was just gonna use because I couldn't get the called for. And when I started to stitch it, it was totally the wrong kind of gold. Like, it did really matter that I get the called for gold. So I had to find that one online. I was able to get it through Fat Quarter Shop, and I ordered 2 packs of that one just in case I go through one. I started that project at Jordan's house. We had a little stitchy day over the last month, and it was so fun. We hung out and stitched all day, started new projects, had some lunch, hung out with her little girl Brody. Like, it was so much fun. Okay, I did stitch a little bit on Wherefore Art Thou. I didn't get a ton into it, but I did do a little bit more when Bridgerton came out. So I did a little bit here in these flowers. I pulled some of the purples over and down a little bit more, and I did some in these flowers over here too. So I'm just kind of working on getting a little bit more progress on that. This hasn't come out since. It got just a little bit of time during the Bridgerton second half premiere. But that being said, I do want to get more into this before the end of the summer. This is a project I started back in 2020, and it's been on my radar for a long time. I have most of the beads for it, but there is a bead that is hand painted that was incredibly difficult to find. I've been looking for it for years, and a couple of weeks ago, somebody in the Mira group talked about the bead. They had a listing for it, and I reached out to them saying, hey, if you have more of this, I'd love to purchase it. And Dana gave me some information on how to contact Casa Sanina to get the bead. And so I did that and was able to finally get some hand-painted beads for this one. I ended up buying 2 of them. Just in case there was an issue with one of them, and also because there is so much purple in the design that I thought, oh, maybe that purple bead will actually work a little bit better. Let me take these out so you can see them outside of the plastic. But heads up to anybody else stitching this, Casa Sanina does have some, what are they called, fusarola or something like that beads, but they're this hand-painted bead style, and they are just so lovely. So the one that was called for looked very similar to this. It might even be exactly this, but I think it was a little bit different. And so this is the bead that I will probably use, and it will hang right there with some other beads. But when I saw this one there too, in her little pack, I thought, ooh, that one might even look better. I don't know, we'll see. When I go to bead it, I'll have to decide. I'm still looking for a few of the Magnificas that are the abalone color, and we'll see if I can source those before it's time to bead. But the fact that I have everything now is just really motivating me to get this done. I have a frame in mind for it. I have the beads. It is so close in terms of Mirabilias that I really would like to get more done on this project. So that was part of my haul, was these beads. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid to ship them from Italy. It was a lot. It was a lot. Whoops, as I dropped them on the table. They did not crack. They're fine. But it was a lot. So Dana mentioned that she might try to do a big order from Casa Sanina for anybody else that is looking for those beads. So if you are looking for materials for Wherefore Art Thou, try reaching out to Dana. Dana DeGroot, I think is her name, on the Mirabilia, Mira on the Wall, and I think the Mira Madness group. I can't remember exactly which ones, but she's in a few of those, and she can often help you get the materials that you need. So there's that. Let me show you my Hands Across the Sea sampler. I've been doing a little bit of work on this one since the last time that you saw it. I also pulled this one out for Rika's birthday. I'm trying to remember what the Sal hashtag was. I think it was Rika's birthday Sal. Or maybe it was Rika's birthday sampler Sal. I don't remember. Anyway, I did do some stitching on this one in honor of Rika and her birthday. And so this is the Rose and the Giant Pear. I was able to finish the main part of the house, with the exception of a little bit more in that window that needs to be done. There is another chimney that comes up here, and then there's another section of the house that extends out this way. I was watching Heidi, Stitching Faye, the other day, and she showed her finish for this one and talked about the changes that she made. And what she did is, see this gray line right there that extends from the house? She changed it to this brown, and it looked really great. Like, it kind of was just more uniform. So I may unpick this little section right here and go with that color the rest of the way down, because I thought that change was really very perfect for this design. I love stitching this one because I am using the Vicky Clayton silks, and they are super, super lovely to stitch with. So, oh, rogue needle. Glad I saw that. So yeah, I'll probably pull that one out again in the next stitching rotation. I've really still been enjoying working on that. And it's not a very large sampler, so I could definitely finish it if I put some more time into it. The other one that I'll show you is one I just started a couple of days ago. I am a fan of Night Spirit Studio, and I've also joined Sage's Patreon. And so I have a lot of different Night Spirit Studio patterns in the queue to stitch. And one of those is one called Blood Fountain. It sounds a little morbid, a little creepy, but that's what I was feeling. I know a lot of you do Christmas in July, which is such a fun concept. I don't begrudge anyone doing Christmas in July. I'm not really a Christmas gal. I enjoy Christmas at times. Like, I like the nostalgia of Christmas. I hate the consumerism and capitalism of Christmas. But I have a couple of Christmas whips, not a lot. It's not something that I feel like stitching right now. Now, Halloween, on the other hand, it is spooky season for me. Once 4th of July is over, I'm ready to stitch on Halloween, and I will stitch on Halloween pretty much all year, but definitely in the next several months until Halloween. So I was feeling spooky, and I was talking with Jordan about it, and I was like, I'm just gonna start some spooky whips. And I sent her a whole bunch of different pictures of patterns that I pulled from my stash, and one of them was Blood Fountain, and she goes, ooh, that's creepy. And I was like, that's what I'm feeling right now, so I started it. I told you I've been fighting the summertime sads, and I just needed our ancient 2,000-year-old vampire sage to, feel that sadness with me. So anyway, this is Blood Fountain. I'm almost done with it, actually. It's not a very large design, and part of it is covered, but it's this large fountain, and then it's got this lace design all the way through, and I have finished up the border. This is not reading super well. I don't know if this will help at all. But this is an Etoile, and so it's got a little bit of sparkle to it. It's Ecru Etoile. This pattern calls for DMC 7 as the border. It's like a driftwood color. I didn't have it. I don't have all of the newer DMC colors in my stash, so I just subbed in Etoile, and I feel like it's looking great. There are 3 different colors of red in the blood and 2 different colors of gray in here. This design is a perfect representation of how skilled of a designer Sage is, because what Sage can do with the negative space in a pattern is just incredible. So you can see all the design in this fountain that exists just through the fabric alone. Like, that's not stitching, that's just using that negative space. And she did that a ton in Widow Frog too, and it was just so rewarding and so fun to stitch. To see that picture come across without me having to stitch all of that picture is really, really fun. I just have a little bit more to do. I'll probably finish this either today or tomorrow, because I just have this part of the fountain and a couple more streams of blood, and then some of this gray down here, and then it'll be done. And I did thrift a frame that I think will work for this one. We'll see. It needs something kind of spectacular, and I don't know if the frame I have in mind is the right fit, so we'll see. It might be a fully finished object the next time I see you, it might not, but we'll find out. We'll see. This is a minder. I think I picked this up at Stitchery Express. I can't remember who the designer is on it, but this is Blood Fountain. This is 14 count Aida. It's just the DMC Aida. It's nothing spectacular. But I love stitching on Aida when I do black. I can't do like a linen with a really dark fabric. Okay, I think that's everything that I've been stitching on. I do have some plans. I am going to be starting Garden Sampler either this afternoon or tomorrow. And I'm gonna stitch that one with Memphis Sarah E. I mentioned it in my last video, and she reached out to me and was like, I have that one kitted, or I have that one mostly kitted, and I also want to start it. Do you want to sell it with me? And I was like, absolutely. So we've been talking about starting it, and I think we're both hoping to start it this week. But I'm going to stitch that one on Color and Cotton Old West. This is a Lugana from their club a couple years ago. So you can see it's got some good modeling in there. It's kind of like a brown. It's a little bit more brown than it's coming across on here. This is looking really tan. It's more of a lighter, dirty, kind of sandy brown. But there's that. And the reason that I'm stitching this one on 32 count is because a while back I thrifted a frame from my local thrift store, and I thrifted it with the intention of putting Garden Sampler in there someday. But it's this frame, so you can see it's got the green and brown in it. And it's quite large, and I think that on a 32 or a 28 count, like it'll fit in here just great. According to my calculator, there will be a little extra margin at the top on a 32 count, but I think it'll be perfect in here. So I'm really excited about that. I know it's kind of weird to have a frame for a project I haven't even started yet, but it's just, it was fated for Garden Sampler. When I saw it and it was $5, I thought, I'm buying it. So that's one of my plans. I have another plan to start a small from Stitching Lupine, or Sprouting Lupine. I'm gonna start the Petrichor walk, it's as a small for my next stitch retreat, and I'm hoping to have that one finished up pretty quick. It's not a very large project, but it's a really beautiful project. It has a lot of back stitching that fills up some of the space, and so I think it'll go pretty quickly. And I have an idea of how I want to fully finish that one too, having not even started it yet, but I'll stitch that one for the next retreat. And I don't know if I'll be back to chat with you again before the retreat, so I may have a lot of stitching to show you next time too, and probably some shopping. Let's be real, I can't go to a stitch retreat without shopping a little bit. Okay, let's talk a little bit about life updates and adventures. I scooted over a little bit so I could have some like open space right here to insert some pictures. I have been up to quite a few different things over the last month. Despite not quite filling myself, I have had a few really wonderful individuals reach out and include me, and been very included by family, like lots of different fun things going on. Earlier in June, we celebrated Pride here in Idaho Falls, and I love Pride weekend. I was a little bit nervous this year because I live in a very conservative area, and we have a predominant religion around here that many people belong to, and it does not support LGBTQIA individuals. And so sometimes people can get really awful in their online discourse, and our news media covered the upcoming Pride celebration, and there were some really awful, threatening, hateful remarks on that video, on that article, and it kind of made me feel a little scared. And thankfully a lot of my community, my very great community, reached out to me and was like, come to Pride with me. will be safe, will be fun, we'll have a great time. I want to support you. So that was really, really lovely. I got to spend the day with family and friends. My brother and I have celebrated Pride together in Idaho Falls for many years, and so it was wonderful to have that same tradition. And then that same weekend, after the Pride festivities, I went up and did like a camping weekend up on some friends' property, and that was lovely. It was great company. It was perfect weather. It was just a really nice chill time. And then over the last couple of weekends, I've had some lake days with my family up at a reservoir nearby. We go and we paddleboard and barbecue and hang out with the dogs, and it's always a really great time. And my sister came home for one weekend, and we went up there together, and it was really nice. A couple weekends ago, or not weekends, midweek, a couple weeks ago, I met up with some ladies that I know here in Southeast Idaho, and one woman I didn't know that was in the Boise area for a Women Who Explore backpacking trip. And we went to, let's see, what was it called? Farley Lake, I think, in the Sawtooths. And it was a beautiful day and a beautiful hike. It started off with rain, and I think a lot of us were feeling nervous about the rain because I packed, in case of emergency rain materials, but like hadn't anticipated based on the forecast that we were going to have a lot of rain. And thankfully it cleared up like probably less than a mile into our hike. And we only had a couple short storms while we were camping, but it was gorgeous. The lake itself was lovely. It was nestled down in kind of a valley next to some big mountains, and there were islands out in the lake, and it was just a really wonderful, peaceful adventure. And then the next day we hiked out and got some lunch and car camped at Stanley Lake Campground. And that is just gorgeous too. There are huge granite mountains in the background of that campground. And the lake was so peaceful and misty that morning that we woke up. It was so lovely. And then one other fun part of the trip is we were given instructions for how to access a not on the map hot spring. And we were able to find it miraculously based on these kind of vague directions. But we were able to find this hot spring and soak for a couple of hours, and it was just perfect. It was wonderful. Let's see here. What else have I been up to? I've been playing trivia with my trivia team usually every week, and we've been doing pretty good recently. It's been awesome. I love playing bar trivia with people. I have a camping adventure coming up this weekend. We're going to go over to Chalice Campground in Hot Springs, and I may go back into Stanley and explore some more areas over in the Sawtooths. So that'll be really fun. And one other adventure that was really kind of lovely. And it was just an evening adventure, but I have some local friends who admitted to me that they watch my Flosstube. Neither of them are cross stitchers, but they told me they watched my Flosstube, and they knew I was kind of having a rough time. And so they invited me over one night for a craft night, and my friend is a bass fisherman, and so he was taking hooks out of his bass fishing lures while I cross-stitched, and we watched a movie, and it was really lovely. I do have some really wonderful people that look out for me in my life, and so that was kind of fun to have a little craft night. I had a little stitchy day with Jordan, so that was really fun. Gosh, am I forgetting anything? I've been trying to think about all my adventures. I've been very lucky to be able to get out and enjoy the summertime with my friends and family. So anyway, wishing all of you a wonderful July and a wonderful summertime. I hope you have lots of time to stitch and get outside and be with your friends and family. And I am eager to do more of the same. July is going to be a month of stitching and also maybe pushing for some more finishes. Our state fair is at the end of August. You have to enter usually around August 23rd maybe. I can't remember exactly this year. And I think so far I have like 5 pieces for entry. And I may be able to push that a little bit more if I can get a few more things done. So we'll see. But I'll be doing some stitching for that and then getting ready for the retreat at the end of the month. Maybe putting together some little table gifts and kitting some projects for starting at the retreat. So anyway, have a wonderful summer, and I will catch up with you hopefully in August. See you then.